wait is over. What started as the next step in Zain Bando's sports media journey has officially evolved. We are live on the Empty the Bench Network. This is the home for unfiltered, unapologetic takes on combat sports, college athletics, and everything else in between. Welcome to Bando's Breakdowns, the show where the wheelchair is just a footnote and the sports takes are unmissable. And now, here's your host, Zain Bando.
Well, we had a bit of an intro snafu this morning. I guess you could call this Bando's Breakdowns episode 102 and a half. But nonetheless, though it is Zinger part 2, yes, the takes were unmissable. You guys were probably confused as to what happened. That is my bad, but we're here. We're live. It is Zinger part 2, the extension, if you will, of Bando's Breakdowns. My name is Zain Bando. Thank you so much for joining me once again on this Sunday morning, Sunday, August 16th. It's the same show. I apologize for that. We will certainly fix for the next episode. But yeah, if you want to call it episode 102 and a half, you certainly can do so as well. Before we get started, a few reminders. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Our numbers have been outstanding as of late as we recently hit 3,000 watch hours. More on that in just a couple of minutes. You can follow the show on social media at Bandits Breakdown. You can subscribe to the channel at youtube.com/EDB Network. And of course, you can find all of my work either here or on my several mediums to where I cover the world of combat sports and college athletics, whether that is the sporting news on Sports Illustrated, View Level Media, and several other syndicates as well. And of course, you can listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcasts. As such, the archive is still being updated. We are at now 102 episodes, I guess, if you want to call it that, with my intro snafu just a few minutes ago, which again, sincerely apologize for that. I guess you could call it episode 102 and a half, but we could have a laugh about that. Nonetheless, though, let's get started with today's show. But before we do that, just wanted to send a quick shout out to the big milestone news that the channel recently hit as of the other day. It's within the last couple of days. So the Empty the Bench Podcast Network is pleased to announce that the network has surpassed 3,000 watch hours on YouTube. And we cannot thank you, the viewers, for your outstanding support in making this milestone possible. In the coming days and next week, we will be rolling out all the details about our super chat, super stickers, super thanks, channel membership tiers, perks, merch store, and so much more. We thank you again for your support of ETB Network programming, as we already have 78 people in the stream, even with the snafu of the intro, if you will. But nonetheless, without further ado, let's get started with today's show. What we're going to be discussing today on the program, and just a reminder as well, for those of you who are a little bit confused or are just curious overall. So Zinger Part 2. You can catch Sunday's episodes and or any additional Monday special edition streams that I do. You can catch them every single week on YouTube and or X. We are streaming to several platforms right now, including the ETB Network YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, the ETB Network Twitter account, ETB Sports, my Twitter account, Forever Power 5, the MMA Outsiders, and of course, Bando's Breakdowns as well, because how could we not do that? So, nonetheless, that'll do it for the little intro here. Let's get into the show itself now while we can. As we'll be on here till about, I would say, 10:30, 10:35. What we usually like to do on here. We'll spend most of the show, though, talking about this first topic, and that is the UFC 330 recap alongside some additional fight announcements as well. So, as we all know, UFC 330 took place last night in Philadelphia, Xfinity Mobile Arena. And for those of you who haven't seen the event yet or have missed out, I'm giving you 5 seconds to click off this stream, look up what you need to about the event, because now we're going to get into spoilers. So here's your little 5 second warning here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, spoiler alert. Islam Makhachev breaks Anderson Silva's all-time win streak record with his 17th consecutive win in a row, defeating Ian Machado Gary by decision in the main event of the evening, defending his welterweight title for the very first time, and doing so in dominant fashion overall. Just a lot of wrestling, a lot of movement, some good striking exchanges, a very methodical, technical fight from the champion in Makhachev there as well. And in fact, we'll play some clips from last night's post-fight presser. We usually like to do this, so we might as well just do this anyway because it'll kind of help facilitate the conversation. So let's do that. Let's pull some clips up here. Let's take a look at championship rounds. Let's hear what Dana White had to say from last night's press conference, as well as he sat with the media following the event. We'll look at some stuff Islam said as well. Here's some interesting nuggets from Dana. Let's pull this up here. It's courtesy of the UFC feed, obviously, of course, but Championship Rounds loves to pull these quotes. So let's hear what Dana has to say about the Makhachev Gary fight, specifically talking about the angle of Ian Gary. So here we go.
I felt like tonight was set up for the upset. I felt like the upset could happen tonight with so much on the line, all the records that Islam has, and he's going to break Anderson Silva's record. There's weight classes for a reason. Ian Gary is a big, rangy, strong guy who has great takedown defense. I mean, if you look at his takedown defense tonight against Islam, it was impressive. I felt like I think that Ian is a talented guy. If he had even an ounce of killer instinct in that fifth round, you know, he had been beating him to the body. Islam's whole, I think, right side was beat up. His face was beat up. You don't come out and hug and shake hands. And that shit drives me fucking crazy when there's so much at stake. And there's also a lot of mental gamesmanship, whatever you want to call it in this game. You come out in that fifth round with a flying knee or something crazy and you try to finish the fight. I think.
Yeah, I think he's right about that. Ian Gary's killer instinct certainly was not there whatsoever, but just kind of looking back on it from a surface level, if you will. Of course, that was Dana White at the post-fight press conference last night, as we've now exceeded 108 people, even with the intro snafu. Sorry, guys, you're not listening to a new episode of Banders Breakdowns. Unless you want to call it episode 102 and a half, you certainly can. Nonetheless, though, I don't know what to say other than Dane is 100% right. Sometimes in MMA, you have one shot. I'm sorry, I don't mean to coin Eminem, but you literally have sometimes for some of these guys, it's one shot, one opportunity. You may never get it again. Ian Gary obviously is 28, 29 years old, still a young guy in the sport, is a decade in the sport already. Still plenty of time to, reflect and get better and do this sort of thing. But it's one of those where maybe that was his moment and he didn't capitalize on it. And that's a major question. Even Islam Makhachev was confused by Ian Gary's respect. And even I will show you that clip as well, because I thought that was very interesting in itself. Let's show that as well if we can here. This was a very interesting nugget from Makhachev, because Makhachev even noticed that this was the case as well, that almost Ian Gary was being, I guess you could say, too respectful of his opponent. That was interesting. So let's take a look at this. We'll look at two clips here from Makachev regarding this notion. One of them is Gary's antics, and the other one is if Makachev wants to fight before the end of the year, which he has a very interesting answer about that. So let's take a look here at this. Let's pop this up again. This is from championship rounds as well. Let's hear what Islam Makhachev had to say following the fight.
It seems like between every round, Ian was saying something to you, kind of trying to give you a hug, touching you on the head. Beginning of the 5th round, he high-fived you. Dana White said he hates that. He wish you guys would just...
Bro, on the side.
Yeah, so that was Mike Bond from MMA Junkie with the question. Now here is Makhachev's answer.
I don't understand, man. This is the fight. This is not something we have to like hug each other every round, you know. We're going to war to broke the face, to broke the eye, you know. That's why I respect all my opponents, but Jan, I don't know. He respect too much.
What did he say to you after the fight? Because it looked like he came and
He
shot
just
you.
said, I fight today with the greatest fighter. Yeah, I respect him, you know. He's a good guy, very kind, you know. But this is the war, you know. Look my face.
So yeah, so there's Makhachev's answer on that. I think he's right. I mean, he's one of the baddest dudes on the planet, if not still in many people's estimation, the pound for pound best fighter in the world, which leads me to my next point, which is a clip we won't play because it's so brief. But Dana White did say that he is still not putting Islam Makhachev as the greatest fighter of all time, which is valid to an extent, although I do think he contradicted himself earlier this week by saying that, if he doesn't have that one loss, he's the GOAT. Well, John Jones is a loss, although that was more of a referee mistake on that loss than a literal loss. It still counts as a loss, but if you know MMA, you know what I'm talking about. It was a terribly instituted rule at the time of Jones's defeat there. So I don't know what to say other than maybe he has more work to do. If he gets to 20 wins in a row, yeah, then I think you could say, okay, this guy really might be the GOAT if he's doing that. But still, 17 is very impressive. Exceeds Anderson Silva's record, obviously. And even Gary, that's only his second loss. And he doesn't have much to hang his hat about. I mean, his 2 losses for the Shavkat and now Makhachev. So I don't think that's a bad loss at all. And then just so we have more time to talk about some other stuff, quickly breezing through co-main event of the evening, Mackenzie Dern had several submission attempts, could not find a finish against the always tough and durable Jillian Robertson. Dern's a beast, but we really need Wei Lee back at strawweight, man. I think Dern is a good fighter, but there's a lot of stuff about her that I think a lot of the casual fans are not appreciative of. And that is that, she really only has one way, and that's the ground game. So it is what it is. There's not much more you can say other than, I don't know. I just feel like there's more to her game than what she showed last night. And I sometimes don't think she gives herself enough credit overall. But we'll see what happens with her next. There were 8 total finishes on this card as well. We went 9-3 on this card. We got the main and co-main event correct. We went 4-1 on the main card as well. The only fight we lost on the main card was Mansour Abdul Malik. He got upset by Dustin Stolfoots. Dustin Stolfoots from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Congratulations to him. Jalen Turner looked really good. Esteban Ribovics retires Edson Barboza. He looked outstanding. Shout out to Edson Barboza. He gave a lot to the sport. He's one of the best fighters to never win a UFC title. Had a pretty good run in the UFC. Finished 3 fights above 500, but fought a who's who list of some of the best fighters on the planet. So congrats to Ribovics there as well. What were some other notable fights on the card that were interesting in itself? Let's see. Let's double check my work here. Yeah, we went 9-3 on this card, and we got 2 fights perfect. Yeah, and Jalen Turner looked awesome. He won by knockout in the first round. In a very, very impressive win against a guy who, didn't really have a whole lot of time to train, but was still a pretty good fight. And then there were some good prelims as well. There were some solid prelims as well, but I would gladly take a 9-3 record. We're 14-13 in the main event category as well, so we will take that. We're a few fights above 500 in numbered event main cards, so we'll take that as well. Nice bounce back from a 6-6 clip a week ago, so I will take it. We're now at 198 wins for the year, if my math is correct, overall for the UFC. So we will gladly take it as well. Title fights are tough to predict, but we got it done. Then some of the other announcements I wanted to mention, there were 2 fight night announcements as well. Oh man, there were some interesting ones. We have one of them that I want to talk about. Well, let's talk about all the announcements, but let's be brief about it here. Let's start with the first one. First one that was mentioned was Gabriel Bonfim. And let's take a look here. So Gabriel Bonfim is going to be fighting Sean Brady. That's on November 7th. That's a UFC Fight Night card. And the other announcement involves the one and only Diego Lopez. Let's take a look at that as well. Let's see here. Oh wait, no, it was not Diego Lopez. My bad. Let's do some more digging. Hang on one second here. Oh, it was UFC's. Okay, here we go. This would have been okay. Let's see. Sorry, I swore they said it last night. Oh, Raul Rosas Jr. Raul Rosas Jr. Hani Barcelos is the main event for September 26th. That's also at the Apex. But the big announcement, the big one, is UFC 333. This is a pretty big announcement. I'm not going to lie. So we've got Alexander Volkanovski in the main event versus Movsar Evloev, and of course Peter Yan defending his belt versus Merab Dvalishvili, the highly anticipated bantamweight rematch. The fight that Merab told me he had waited for, and now he's finally going to get it. Congratulations to Merab. He gets the fight. That'll be October 24th at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi, Yas Island, only on Paramount Plus, with the special start time 2 p.m. Eastern main card and 10 a.m. Eastern for the prelims. So should be a good one. It crunched in the middle of all the college football, but that's how it is in Abu Dhabi every year in October. They always do a numbered event in Abu Dhabi. Still no word on Madison Square Garden, and still no word on Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. It's a wait and see approach for both of those. Let's move away from fighting now. Let's do a brief recap of the Bears and the Browns. The Bears win their first preseason game 34-10. Let's go through the box score very quickly before we move on to the remainder of the show, as we only have a couple minutes left. All right, here we go. So this is the game tracker according to CBS Sports. The Bears outgained the Browns through the air 348-206. The Browns ran the ball better than Chicago, 108-82. Total yards, Bears had 430. The Browns had 314. No Caleb Williams in this game for Chicago. Tyson Bagent threw a touchdown. Case Keenum threw two touchdown passes, and Miller Moss also got in the game as well. Deshaun Watson, not great. 11 of 15, 126 yards, not a good game. Shadur Sanders saw brief action, threw an interception. Overall, this was a dominant win for the Bears. It doesn't mean much because it's the preseason. The Bears trailed 10-0, but I think it was more a good exhibit or experiment of who the Bears have in the future, how excited they could be to do some big things with some of the rookies, and we'll see how the Bears progress as the season rolls along into the regular season, of course. Let's now move on to the Illinois NIL jersey patch deal. This was reported by Front Office Sports. Let's take a look at the story. Okay. All right. All right. According to Front Office Sports' Amanda Kristovich, it's a pretty big deal for my alma mater, the University of Illinois. It's a 23-page agreement, $30 million in total, according to the contract obtained by FOS. Multiple universities have denied FOS's request for contracts covering jersey patch deals. The overall 5-year sponsorship agreement began July 1st and runs until July 30th, 2031 per the deal. BC Bank will pay Illinois $5 million annually, as well as a one-time $5 million signing bonus. It's a pretty big deal for a lot of the sports. It includes several categories of sponsorship assets, including the uses of jersey patches for football, men's and women's basketball. The patch will appear on the front of the sideline apparel and uniform for players and the head coach. It will also appear as applicable on the clothing of the offensive and defensive coordinators as well. And multiple other sports, including men's and women's basketball, head coach for soccer, volleyball, baseball, and softball, as well as men's and women's golf. Let's see here. What else is there? Let's see. Illinois did not respond to comment. In fact, I didn't even know about this before FOS reported it. I'm on the Illinois list for media, and I at least wasn't given a heads up. So this is all news to me. The brand will also receive a designated number of tickets for Illinois games across multiple sports, 97 for football, 69 for men's basketball, 18 for women's basketball. Volleyball is 8 tickets. Parking passes, luxury suites, road trips, up to 4 UC Bank executives or guests will receive travel, lodging, and tickets for one Big Ten conference road game a year. If I was part of UC Bank, I know what road game I'd be picking. It would be the Ohio State game in September for football. But overall, I think this is a big deal. It elevates the brand. It helps the student athletes. There's even talks that they're even going to help with employment after graduation. So huge, huge news for my alma mater. It just goes to show how much an athletic department and a couple head coaches can really change the complexion of an entire program. And that's what Illinois has done both for men's basketball, women's, well, all three, men's basketball, women's basketball, and of course football, which I think is the driver of this whole thing. Is football is going to be getting a lot more attention than ever before over the next several years. And I think this deal certainly does help that. And the deal ends when Brett Bielema will probably end up retiring. So that might end up being a good thing for the old ball coach. All right. Speaking of Ohio State, let's get into a brief preview of this team. We're going to break down a couple of schedules for the final few topics of the show. Let's go over Ohio State's overall schedule for football. Let's make my picks and predictions. That's what the preview is for. Football, here we go. So here's the schedule. So they open the season with Ball State. That'll be the senior day festivities. I think they win that game. That's 1-0. Ohio State goes to Texas. Unfortunately, I think they lose to Texas. I think Texas finds a way to get some revenge. I think they beat Kent State, so they're now 2-1. They'll beat Illinois, so they'll be 3-1. They'll beat Iowa, they'll be 4-1. They'll beat Maryland, they'll be 5-1. Oh, they'll beat Indiana, they'll be 6-1. They'll beat USC, they'll be 7-1. I don't know. I think Oregon's very good, so I'm gonna say if they lose that game, so they'll be 7-2. I think they beat Northwestern, they beat Nebraska, and they beat Michigan. So I think 10-2 for Ohio State with their 2 losses coming to Texas and Oregon. I think are going to be good enough to still make the CFP because you will still have wins over quality opponents like Iowa as well as defending national champion Indiana. I think Ohio State returns a lot of very good talent. I think Ryan Day is still an outstanding coach. I really do. I just think 10-2, I think, is where Ohio State is. They have one of the toughest stretches in the country. That Indiana, USC, and Oregon stretch is going to be really challenging, but I really like Ohio State to do some big things this year as usual. Finish 10-2, and we'll see where the CFP will take them. Let's move over now to the Michigan Wolverines. That's the other Big Ten team we'll preview on today's stream. We will do more teams as the season gets closer. We still have some time, but let's go over to Michigan. Michigan with a brand new look, new coach in Kyle Whittingham, new OC and Jason Beck. A lot of new changes, but they still have Bryce Underwood at quarterback. They opened with a night game against Western Michigan. I think they win that. The exact revenge against Oklahoma, I think they win that game. They're 2-0. They'll beat UTEP. They're 3-0. They'll beat Iowa. They're 4-0. They'll beat Minnesota. They're 5-0. I think they drop a really close but exciting game to Penn State. So now they're 5-1. They'll lose to Indiana. They'll be 5-2. They'll beat Rutgers. They'll be 6-2. They'll beat Michigan State, who's still in rebuild mode. They'll be 7-2. They'll lose to Oregon for sure. They'll be 7-3. They'll beat UCLA to get to 8-3, and then in a huge game against Ohio State and Columbus, I think they dropped that game, finishing the year 8-4, but some nice quality wins, including that one that I just alluded to against Oklahoma. I think that will be their signature win of the season. So I think Bryce Underwood's second year in college ball is going to go a little bit better than his first one, and I do think they will more than likely come away with a bowl victory. All right, now moving back over to the NFL now, the NFC East. We're going to preview this really quick. Obviously, with the Eagles, the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Commanders in no particular order. Let's go over how I believe they will do division standings wise. We're going to get some assistance here from Bleacher Report as we did with the NFC South. We'll make this brief as we can here. They got the Dallas Cowboys winning the NFC East. I don't know if I agree with that. I do think the Eagles win the division based on a head-to-head tiebreaker, so I could agree with that to an extent that I do think it will come down to those two teams. The Commanders will just miss the postseason at 8-9, and the Giants will falter at 7-10. They'll look a little bit better as they mentioned. Your Jackson Dart does return. But again, a young signal caller must learn to protect himself in a run-first offense. Without Malik Neighbors, they may need time to get back to 100% coming off of a torn ACL. The Giants have too many offensive question marks to feel good about their season outlook. That I would agree with 100%. And speaking of agreeing and speaking of football season and all that stuff, let's take a look at the upcoming programming that will supersede your Sunday afternoons. So, ditch the traditional broadcast desk and fire up the grill. It's time to tailgate. Ditch your dad's boring old school pregame show and get locked in with Gridiron Gurus on the Empty the Bench podcast. And we're joining Grant Winsauer, Ben Cruz, and Michael Rapolo every Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific for the ultimate Sunday morning kickoff tailgate. Grant, Ben, and Michael give you everything you need in the final hour before kickoff, last-minute fantasy sit, start advice, sharp betting lines, crucial weather conditions, and real-time injury news that could make or break your Sunday slate. Don't set your lineups or lock in your best bets on autopilot. Join the tailgate, get the edge, and win your Sunday. Catch Gridiron Groups every Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, beginning with week number 1, only on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for today's stream in just a couple of minutes. Before we get out of here, though, just a few quick reminders. In doing so, as per usual, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. To do so, please go to youtube.com/ETB Network. Only takes a couple of seconds. You're not signing up for anything. If you have a YouTube account, subscribing is free. You can do so. youtube.com/ETBNETWRK. Follow the show on social media, Banders Breakdown. We will be back next Thursday for episode 103 of Banders Breakdowns. And actually, we're going to do a bit of a switcheroo at the end of this episode to fix my mistake from earlier. So stay tuned for that. My name is Zain Bando. I'm a sports journalist and an ETB Network co-host. And of course, you can listen to Banders Breakdowns wherever you get your podcasts. Would be greatly appreciated if you guys subscribed over to the RSS feeds as well. And once again, my name is Zain Bando. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been another edition of Zain Zinger Part 2, not Banders Breakdowns. Once again, I apologize for the confusion. Let's actually fix that now. Let's actually fix that now as we wrap up the festivities here. There we go. All right. But nonetheless, though, thank you guys for tuning in. As always, it's greatly, greatly appreciated. And yeah, my takes are always unmissable. Thank you so much once again. Really, really appreciate your guys' support. And yeah, my name is Zan Bando, and we will catch you guys next week for another edition of Zan Zinger Part 2. Back here once again next Sunday, August 23rd. Stay tuned later tonight, and you can scrap what I just said previously. It's not going to work in the way that I had hoped. But nonetheless, though, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good one. Cheers, everyone. We'll catch you guys next week for episode 103. But until then, stay cool. It's still really hot outside. And keep it locked in for all the programming to come. And we'll catch you guys soon. Cheers to everyone that came in on all the YouTube platforms and on the X platforms. Really appreciate you. And we'll catch you guys soon. Have a good one, everyone. Cheers. Thanks.